It was one of the largest adoption operations in history.
Most people take it for granted. They know who their parents are. They know who they look like. I never had that growing up.
During the Vietnam War, children were airlifted from orphanages and placed with Western countries who'd responded to calls for help. Around 1,500 were adopted by Australians. Kim arrived in Adelaide in a cardboard box at 6 months of age.
The first time we saw Kim, he was in a smelly red tracksuit. When he got to Jen, he hung on to you like he was a koala bear on a gum tree.
That was the amazing thing, because we assumed that from leaving Vietnam to arriving, he would have been nursed and cuddled by lots of different people. And yet, for some reason, he seemed to know that this was for good. I felt like any other mother. I'd had 3 babies of my own, but right from when we decided that there was a child there who was ours, we just loved him. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't difficult at all.
My family were very accepting and loving, and they provided a real loving and caring home for me.
But growing up in white Australia in the 80s wasn't easy.
In my teenage years, I resented my adoption. I really found it difficult because I knew that me looking different was the reason for being abused and being taunted and teased. But I tried to fit into the Australian culture, and I loved playing cricket, footy and riding my BMX bike.
Kim was always told that it was likely his biological parents had died in the war, their identities unknown.
All of us were wondering what was his past and where was his father and where was his mother. And we had to wait 50 years for that to come about, but it came about in the most surprising way.
My birth certificate does have my Vietnamese name and my mother's Vietnamese name, my birth date, and I was baby 671. It wasn't until later that I found out that a lot of those names on those records were falsified. So I thought, let's do a DNA test at the ripe old age of 50.
Kim found out he was half Scandinavian and managed to track down some of his cousins. They said they knew who his father was, but that he'd died in 2005.
Quite upsetting, really, to be told in one sentence that here's your dad, his name was Niels, and he's from this really big family, and then within a second he was all taken away from me.
Kim and his wife Katie were reunited with his Danish family last year, but he doesn't know who his mother is.
Ever since I found my father through DNA, it sort of just reignited my passion for searching for her.
Kim is one of many holding out hope they may one day be able to meet their mother. For Sue, that desire came from becoming a mum herself.
Within a minute of me holding my firstborn in my arms, looking at the first person I knew for certain that I was biologically related to, it didn't occur to me to that point in time that I really needed to search.
Sue was only 3 weeks old when she was flown to Australia in 1974. All that remains about who she once was is a passport photo.
It's something that's really difficult to think about, not because there's no information, but because it's an acknowledgement of the void that's there.
DNA tests and 30 years of searching haven't produced any answers for Sue.
To my mother and my father, how is it that we have existed in this world apart for all these years? Life being full of meeting so many people. My daughter, my son, but never you. Of all the things an infant takes in when it's born, did I see you? Did you hold me? After all my searching, the only clue is me. The main motivator for me is the sense of fear, sadness or confusion. What happens if my mother is searching for me?
Sue is the founder of Vietnam Family Search, a group that helps adoptees find their families.
Time is ticking along. We need to do something. When we go and we're looking and trying to connect, we really have to be quite basic about it. Even though we've got all these fancy aids and tools and things, reaching out to the parents really has to be within the community.
In April, Sue, Kim and 18 other adoptees living in Australia will travel to Vietnam to give out care packages and DNA kits. They'll be riding from Ho Chi Minh City to Soc Trang and visiting villages along the way.
We want to learn about Vietnam. We want to get in there and have genuine connections. Someone comes out somewhere and says, I'm looking for my child. As long as we find out, we can go and get that done.
Sue and Kim are so proud of the families they've joined and formed here. But what or who might be waiting for them in Vietnam is a mystery they'll always be trying to solve.
This trip to Vietnam could be really special, and it could help someone find their mother, which would be so important. I would say to her that I love her, and I know that what she did for me was probably very difficult, but it probably was the best thing that she could have done during that time.
I would never stop searching for my children. If I was separated for whatever reason, I could guarantee that would be my last thought.
Wow.
What a situation to be in. And it tells you just the power and the depth of people wanting to connect with their roots.
I know,
It's almost involuntary, isn't it? It's extraordinary. If you want to find out more information, you can head to our website.